Hey guys, and welcome to the first UI tutorial in the Advanced C++ and Graphics Tutorials series. We're going to be using Crazy Eddie's GUI to get some actual UI in our game, and today we're just going to be installing it. First off, I want to go ahead and apologize for not uploading anything for the past month. For those of you who've been following me pretty closely, I would offer to commit seppuku, but if I did that, then we wouldn't have any more tutorials at all, so I'm going to go ahead and just pretend like my pacing isn't absolutely horrible and start working on these tutorials again for you guys. So today, like I said, we're doing CGUI. There's a lot of GUI libraries out there. I wanted to definitely use a GUI library and not have us create our own, because if we tried to create our own, it would be very inferior to anything else we could get, and it would probably take many, many tutorials for me to actually get anything remotely good for you guys to use. So what we're going to do instead is use CGUI. It's a very good GUI library, and what's great about it is it supports OpenGL rendering, so we can pretty much just create our GUI and make a call to render it, and it will automatically render on top of all of our other stuff, which is really great. It's much easier to use than a lot of other things. The hardest part is really just installing it and getting it set up for the first time, but it's not too terrible. In this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the build process, installing things, and I'm going to show you about CMake and how to use CMake, and then we should, at the end of the tutorial, have everything configured with our project, and then in the next tutorial, we're actually going to use some of this UI stuff. Alright, here we go. Okay, so let's jump right into installing CEGUI, and the first step for that is going to be to install CMake. Now, you may have heard the term CMake before. It's a very, very popular utility, and what CMake does is it allows us to build projects for different platforms. So if we're on Windows, we'll be able to build a Visual Studio project. If we're on Mac OS, we'll be able to build an Xcode project, or really whatever. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to download the source for CEGUI and its dependencies and build them no matter what platform we're on. And the reason they use that is so that CEGUI doesn't have to manually create all these different downloads for all these different platforms. They can just provide the one source download, and then we handle the rest. Now, because of that, it's a little bit harder to do this. Notice there's a lot of steps, but it's not too hard. And once you're done with this, you should be a pro at building projects, so you'll be able to, download other libraries later and figure out how to install them on your own. All right, so first thing we need to do, like I said, install CMake. So let's go ahead and just type in CMake, and it's going to take us to cmake.org, and we're going to go to download at the top right. And if we are on Windows, which I am, we're going to download this Windows Win32 installer. Or if you're feeling crazy, you can install the zip and manually do it. And I, of course, already downloaded the installer. Let's see, show in folder. So I'm going to do that. Now, on my computer, for some reason, if you just run this without being an administrator, it will hang like this and it'll never actually open. So for me, to actually, run that, you have to right-click on it and do Run as Administrator, and then it will pop up. So I'm going to go ahead and install this because I don't quite have the newest version. I agree. Now, here it's going to ask if you want to add CMake to the path. You actually should. I recommend that you do. Whenever you add something to the path variable, what that means is it's going to allow you to call this program from the command line. So in the command line, you can type, for instance, CMake GUI, and it'll run the CMake for you. And that's a pretty good thing. So we're going to just add it for all users. And if you want, you can create a desktop icon. I'm not going to. And just click yes for installing, yes, install, wherever it wants to put it, and it'll take just a few seconds to install everything. Now, you might get this thing, it says path too long, installer unable to modify path. If that happens, don't panic too much, and hit finish. Okay, now we have CMake installed. Now, if you use the desktop shortcut, that'd probably be the easiest way to run it, or if you were able to get it installed into your path, you can run it from the command line, or you can just go to the install folder and run the CMake file from there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run it from the command line because I've already put it in my path before. A little trick, you can do shift right click and then you can do open command window here. And now I can, for instance, say CMake CMake-GUI dot, and that'll open CMake for me. There we go. So now I have CMake open, so we can move on to the next steps. Download the dependencies and download the source code for CEGUI. So we're just going to type CEGUI into Google, yes, and we're going to go to CEGUI. Here's the main page. Now if you look at the bottom left, we have the latest releases. We have CEGUI 0.8.4, and at the top we also have a getting started guide. If you want to just work ahead and don't want to watch this video, you can use that to also learn how to install everything. So click on that and then you'll be able to download it, and, or actually let's go there. you're going to want to download both the dependencies and the source code package. So right here, this dependencies window, Apple OS X only, download those first, and then also download the source code package as a zip file, and you will want to put those in your download folder or somewhere. So let's go to where those are, show in folder. Now I'm going to take the two of these and I'm going to cut them, and I'm going to put them in J projects. Let's go to graphics tutorials and deps. So I'm going to put them in my deps folder, just alongside the include and lib for now. We can delete this when we're done building it if we want. Now, for some reason, that is still there. Let's delete that. And it's not letting me delete that for some dumb reason. So we're just going to extract this to it, and it should overwrite everything. Alright, so that's going to extract the source code. And now we want to also extract the dependencies. So I'm going to extract to the dependencies folder. There we go. So now we have CGUI deps and we have CGUI. And it's going to take a second here to install. While it's doing that, I'm going to delete this zip file. And we'll wait for that one to delete. I guess I could have cut the video, but don't you like hearing my voice? Almost. 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 Okay, I'm so wasting your time. Alright, there we go. Now we can delete this one. Alright, so now we have the deps and the source code. So, let's go ahead and mark off some of these. Yes, we installed CMake. Yes, we downloaded dependencies. Yes, we downloaded the source. Now we need to build the dependencies with CMake. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up this folder and we're going to go into the dependencies. And we're going to have CMake open over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to just take this path up here, the root path of this source folder and all the stuff in there, where it has CMake lists. Anytime you see a project that has CMake lists.txt, that's how you know it's configured to run with CMake. We're going to take this right here and we're going to just paste it in where is the source code, and we're also going to paste that in where to build the binaries. But at the end of this, we're going to type /build. We don't want to build it in the same exact folder where the source code is because it'll be kind of a big mess. Instead, we want to create a separate folder called build and build it there. Alright, so now that we have that, we can click configure at the bottom left. Build directory does not exist. Yeah, go ahead and create it. Now here's where we pick what generator we want to use. Now as you can see, there's a bunch of different generators we can actually use. You can use Eclipse, CodeBlocks, CodeLight, anything you want. Since we use Visual Studio, we're going to do that. And I'm not using Visual Studio 2015 because I don't have that on my computer, so I'm going to use Visual Studio 2013, and I'm just going to pick the default one. And yes, use default native compilers. Now it's going to start configuring. It's probably going to print out a bunch of messages. There we go. After it's done configuring, we can look at this and see that everything is working right, blah, blah. Now we click generate, and it'll actually generate the project. Now after it's generated, you might get a bunch of warnings. Don't worry too much about that. It should be fine. Now go into the build folder that was newly created, and you should see a bunch of stuff here. We're going to have an allbuild.vcxproj. Go ahead and double click on that. And it's going to open up a Visual Studio project for building the dependencies. So that CMake didn't actually build the dependencies. All it did was it built the project file for us to build the dependencies with. So it's going to parse all these include files. Just click over onto the Solution Explorer and you should see we have all builds selected. Make sure that's true. Now go up to Build and just click Build Solution. We're going to build the debug mode solution first. And this is going to take probably a really long time because there's a lot of dependencies. We actually don't need all these dependencies, but we're just going to go ahead and build them all just to be safe. Now once that is finished, at the bottom you should see build 26 succeeded, 0 failed, 0 up to date, 1 skipped, and you should have 0 errors, but you're probably going to have some warnings. After we've done it in debug mode, we have to also do it in release. We definitely want to do it in both right now so we don't have to remember later after our program doesn't compile. And it'll build that one as well with some optimization, so just give that a second. And when that one's done, you should see the same thing at the bottom, 26 succeeded, no other problems. And we can go ahead and close out of that. And now in our build folder, we have, let's see, we have a dependencies folder, and this is what it built for us. It built this dependencies folder. Inside it has a bunch of libs, it has include files, it has DLLs, it has everything that CEGUI needs. These are the dependencies for CEGUI. So we're going to take this dependencies folder, I'm going to cut it, you can copy it if you want, and we're going to back out all the way to CEGUI 0.8.4 and go into the actual CEGUI source. And we're going to paste it right here. We're going to paste it in the main folder with all the other stuff. So now that we have finished building the dependencies, we can start that. And now we need to build dependencies project and build dependencies. We did both of those. Next, we need to copy the dependencies into the CEGUI folder, which is what we just did, so I don't know why I didn't start that one while I was here. And now we need to build CEGUI with CMake. It's pretty much the same process. We're going to be in this main CEGUI folder with the CMake lists. We're going to take this URL at the top and copy it and paste it here, and we're also going to paste it here. And we're going to type /build again, because we do want that build folder. And first we click configure, and we're going to say yes, build the directory, and we're going to use Visual Studio 12 again, or whatever compiler you choose to use. If you're using 2015, which a lot of you probably will be when you watch this video, go ahead and use that one instead. Now it's going to say that there's a bunch of errors and things like that, but it should be just fine. It doesn't need all of the things that it's complaining about. So just give it a second. And when that's done, what we want to do is we want to make sure that if in this big list here, we want to make sure CEGUI build render OpenGL is checked and CEGUI build render OpenGL 3 is checked. That's going to allow us to render with OpenGL 3, which is what we've been using. And once that's done, you can click generate, and it will actually generate the project for us. There we go, and it's done. That was really quick. So we're going to open up build. And here we have another all build. I'm sure you are familiar now with what we're going to do. We're just going to open up all build and we're going to run it. So alright, we are going to first build in debug mode. Make sure all build is the target solution in the Solution Explorer. If it's not, right click and then click set as start a project. So go to build solution. And that one's going to build. I'm going to pause the video. Well, that took a really long time. At the bottom you should see 25 succeeded and I got 2 failed. When I checked the error list, the 2 that are failed are just some demo things. You don't really have to worry. When we do the all build, it's building all the demos as well, so you can play with those later and see how they work if you want to learn more about CEGUI. So after you've done it in debug, now we have to again do it in release and wait for another eternity for that to finish. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now when that finally finishes, we can go ahead and close out of Visual Studio and CMake. We don't need either of those anymore. And we can go ahead and start copying everything. So we need to get rid of that, and we need to get rid of that one. Now we are on copy libs, includes, and DLLs. So what we are concerned with is, in the build folder at least, we are concerned about the lib and the bin folders. Bin has all of our DLLs, and the lib folder has all of the libraries that we need, and we don't need all of these, don't worry. We just built them all because we felt like it. And if we back up one directory, there's also this data files folder. This has a whole bunch of data files that we're going to use so that we don't have to create a bunch of different layouts from hand. We can just use some of the pre-built ones. So let's start with that. Actually, let's open up 2 windows so we don't have to keep navigating through multiple directories. Let's see, projects and graphics tutorials. So I'll open these up side by side so you can watch what I'm doing. There we go. And let's configure this a little bit. Alright, let's go into graphics tutorials. And first let's copy the data files. So make sure you're not copying the data files inside build. You're copying the data files folder outside of build in the same directory as build. If you click on that, it should have all these animations and fonts and things like that. So I'm going to take, oops, what am I doing? I'm going to go inside data files, grab all of this except for CMake lists. We don't care about that. Click Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to create a new folder in graphics tutorials, and this is going to be, sorry, not graphics tutorials, we want to be in Ninja Platformer. Graphics tutorials is a very old project. Alright, so in here we make a new folder, and let's just call it GUI, and let's make it all uppercase because that's kind of the thing we've been doing. So double click on GUI and paste it all here. That'll give us all our data files that we can use. That's very important. Now over here, let's go back into the build folder and let's copy the libraries. So in graphics tutorials, we're going to go to deps, and inside deps, we're going to go to lib, and we have both a debug and a release folder now. So let's go into release, and let's start by copying. And oh, I wonder if I actually showed you how to do this. You should have a release and a debug folder. If you don't have a release and a debug folder, if I didn't teach you that, I forgot if I did or not, make sure to do that. If you just have one folder, just create a debug and a release and then copy all of your dependencies into both of them. Because most of the ones we're using will work fine for both debug and release, but in this case, we have to use separate ones. So in the release folder, we're going to copy CEGUI base 0.lib And also we have CEGUI OpenGL renderer.lib. Both of those. We're going to copy those to the release folder like that. Now if you're on Mac OS, it may be a little bit different. And now we need to go into the debug release folder, or sorry, the debug build folder, lib folder, oh my god. And we're going to copy CEGUI base 0d.lib, and we're also going to copy the OpenGL d.lib, and here we go, OpenGL renderer d.lib, that one. And we're going to paste that there. Now that we have that, we need to copy all of the DLLs, and there are a lot of them. I'm not sure if you actually need all these. The demo ones you certainly do not need. And actually, we aren't copying the DLLs from here. We're going to be copying them from the dependencies folder. But we do need at least CEGUI base DLL from here. So let's copy that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into graphics tutorials debug. Graphics tutorials release, where our executables get built. And we're going to paste our CEGUI base 0.dll here, and I've already copied it, so I'm going to paste that over it. And oops, this is release. Yes, that's correct, this is release. Then when we go to debug, we copy the debug version, which just has an _d after it. Paste that one here, copy and replace if you already have it for some reason. And we also need to do the same thing for OpenGL renderer, which I just now realized. So let's go down to where OpenGL renderer is, and it should be here somewhere. Here we go, OpenGL renderer D, copy that one. And the release one, don't forget to copy that one as well, the one that doesn't have the _d. So you should have both of these just like that. Now that we've done that, there's other dependencies we need. If we go to CEGUI dependencies and go into bin, there's a bunch of DLLs here that it's going to complain to us about if we don't put them. I think we do need all of these. I'm not sure if we do need all of them, but just to be safe, you can just go ahead and take all of them. Like, I don't think we need Lua. But if you don't want to copy all of them, which I don't blame you, what you can do is just go ahead and not copy them for now, and then when you actually run the game, it's going to give you the error about the missing DLL, and you can just come here and copy it over when you need it. So first I'm copying the release ones, and it looks like I didn't need some of those because it got a little bit bigger, and I've already done this before. So you definitely don't need all of these. I'm assuming you probably don't need Lua, and you probably don't need... maybe you don't need, I don't actually know which one you don't need, but I know you probably don't need Lua. So copy that one into debug. Even though we don't need them, whatever, go ahead and copy it. Alright, so now we have installed it into our folders. We just need to configure it to run with our actual project file. We're nearing the end of this journey here. Let's go ahead and open up, excuse me, open up graphics-tutorials.solution. And we're going to go ahead and dynamically link it like we do with all of our other libraries. Let's go into Ninja Platformer. Make sure you have that one selected because that's the game we are currently working with. And we're going to go to Project Properties. There we go. Make sure these are the properties for Ninja Platformer. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the linker. And we're going to go into Input. And when we open this up, it's going to get filled with the two libraries that we have added, which are, that's not the one I want. I want this one. And if we go to, where is it, deps, lib, here we go. So we are in release mode right now, as you can see by this top left little thing here, it says release. So we're going to use the release libraries, which is CEGUI base 0.lib and CEGUI OpenGL renderer 0.lib. And just a hint to quickly copy paste it, you can just click rename and copy the name. So we don't have to worry about accidentally typing it in wrong. Just make sure you don't accidentally rename it. And there we go. So now we have the base and the renderer for release mode, and now we just need to do it for debug mode as well. Yes, save changes. So we edit here, and this time we are going to lib debug, and we're going to copy the CGUI base 0d and CGUI OpenGL render d.lib, that one. Okie dokie. Now that that's done, we can go ahead and see if it actually kind of worked. Oh, there's one more thing that I totally forgot. We need to include the include files. That's kind of important, and we won't actually be able to include CGUI. If we go back to deps, CGUI, and where are we? Build. No, where is it? It's CGUI include. There we go. CGUI. So we just take this whole CGUI folder right here, copy that, and bring it back out into graphics tutorials, depths include, and paste it there. So you should have CEGUI in here along with all this other stuff. Now we can actually include CEGUI, and to do that we just type include CEGUI / CEGUI.h. And then since we are actually going to be using the OpenGL rendering, we're going to include CEGUI / render modules / OpenGL, yes, OpenGL / GL3 render.h. That should be there. There we go. And it didn't give us an error, so I think that's working. Now let's actually test and see if it doesn't crash, see if we're not missing any DLLs or anything. I'm in gameplay screen on entry for the Ninja platformer, and what I'm going to do is at the bottom I'm going to, let's say, temporary UI. At the bottom I'm going to go ahead and create a just a little OpenGL render, and I'm going to initialize CEGUI all at the same time. CEGUI makes it really easy to do that. We're going to just say CEGUI, and we're going to say OpenGL 3 render my render equals, and then CEGUI OpenGL 3 render bootstrap system. And what bootstrap system does is it gives us a render, and it also initializes all of the CEGUI stuff. It basically creates the system for us. It's the easiest way to get started. Now you have to make sure you're calling this after you've initialized Glue and created your OpenGL context, because it's going to use the current OpenGL context for its rendering. If you don't have one, it's not going to work. You'll probably get a crash. Alright, and let's test moment of truth. We're probably going to have errors because I'm never this flawless. There we go. We have an error. Cannot open source file CEGUI config.h or CEGUI version.h. So this is a new one, but I'm pretty sure all we need to do is go into base and change that to just config.h. See if that works. There we go. And change this to just version.h. Nope, that's not going to work either, is it? Okay, I'm going to pause the video and figure out what's happening. I forgot how to fix this. Okay, very simple solution. The problem is we actually didn't have these files in the CEGUI folder because CMake actually built those files for us in a different folder, and we have to copy those. So let's open up our little file explorers here. We did copy CEGUI include from the CEGUI folder, but we also have to go into build and copy CEGUI include CEGUI from there as well. Inside there is those missing files, config, version.h, and module config that we needed. So go ahead and copy CEGUI, and you can just merge it with your other CEGUI that you've already copied over. And just click yes, and it should copy that. And now we should be able to build this no problem. So when we run it, we should get no errors. Shouldn't be complaining anymore. There we go, and the game runs no problem. It doesn't crash or complain about DLLs. If yours does complain about DLLs, all you got to do is go grab the DLLs from the dependencies folder, and let's check release as well. We want to make sure both of these are running correctly. And generating. Oh, there we go. We got an access violation break. It looks like we got an access violation in the Bootstrap system. Let me look into this and see what's wrong. Okay, so I wasn't sure what the heck was going on, so I just tried rebuilding everything for the release mode. I rebuilt the project, I rebuilt the solution, and copied the .lib files over again, and now it works perfectly. So I'm not sure exactly what went wrong. Just look through this. I'm going to scroll really quickly here. If you're having the same problem I had, make sure all of your settings are the same as mine on this page right here for CMake when you're building the actual CEGUI solution folder or solution file. And just make sure you've copied everything over correctly. Try recopying everything again and see now when I run release it works fine. If you get this crash or get any other problems, please leave a comment in the comments and I will try my very best to help you out. I know this is pretty complicated, but you guys are all pretty smart, especially if you're this far into the tutorial series, so I'm sure that you guys can figure this out. So I will see you in the next tutorial when we're actually going to create some UI stuff and get something drawn to the screen. And then eventually we'll be able to start using it in our games. Thanks for watching, guys.